Get ready to touch that dial with your host, Spike Nesmith.
Today, we travel to St. Louis, Missouri for a pretty impressive catch. It's a nice, clear signal for such a long way away, even if it is a Clear Channel station, and it's a station that sits west of the Mississippi River, so the call letters start with a K rather than a W. For a format such as Talk, which is almost exclusively conservative, the host here, and I didn't catch his name unfortunately, is surprisingly neutral. If we caught him on another day, maybe he'd better fit the bill of the cardboard cutout fire and brimstone AM radio MAGA talk show host, but on this particular winter evening he's almost completely reasonable, and it makes for a really interesting listen. From 617 miles away from where I park my car, this is KMOX St. Louis.
This is where ideas come to a head. Jim called. I asked him a couple of questions. I disagree with him, but we could agree to disagree, and we could do it amicably. And don't you wish in your heart of hearts that that's how things should work in Washington, that's how things should work in Jefferson City or in Springfield, Illinois, that when people disagree, that we lay out our ideas, we make our point, and if the other side isn't convinced, you don't then label them an idiot and a moron because they disagree with you. And I know that's really popular today, but I gotta tell you, I don't think it's effective. I don't think that we as the recipients of government action, and we are, every person listening is a recipient of government action, whether it's how our tax policies are based or whether we are allowed to buy natural gas stoves or not. Every single person in this country is affected by government policy. And yet when our leaders are debating what policies should or should not be enacted, I really don't appreciate when leaders call each other names. I don't appreciate that. There was something I saw, this was years ago. I believe it was in Taiwan. And this would have been in the 80s, maybe the 90s. But there was an argument on the floor of Parliament, and I believe it was in Taiwan. And the two members of Parliament got so angry that they started a fist fight on the floor of Congress. And to me, I thought, we really don't want our leaders getting into a beer brawl, a pub brawl on the floor of Congress. And yet that's so much what it seems like today. And I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that at all. And one person just texted in and said, why can't they give us better candidates? And you know what? That's a great question. That's a great question. And if you've ever known anyone, I've been approached to run for office before. And I said, no, thank you very much. Because who would want to go through that? I mean, to be a politician in general today, or to be running for president in particular, you kind of have to be a narcissist, don't you? You can't. It's really hard to say I'm out for the best interests of our country when it's really all about me, me, me. So here's a great question. I've only got about a minute left, but here's a great question that someone just texted in. If Trump is not on the ballot, can't we still vote for him as a write-in vote? That's a fantastic question. If you interpret the 14th Amendment, Section 3, Insurrection Clause, if you interpret that in the meaning in which it was written, then a write-in ballot would not be allowed either, because a write-in ballot is simply another form of having someone elected to office. So, in other words, if you look at that insurrection clause, it doesn't just remove them from the ballot. It makes that person ineligible to hold office. And that's different. So even if millions of people would write in and say, we want Trump as president, if the Supreme Court holds that he is an insurrectionist and therefore he's ineligible for office under the 14th Amendment, if that were to happen, then not even a write-in ballot would be sufficient because he would be held ineligible. Hey, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we've got more at your service for another hour. Lots of stories. Now, I've only gotten to 2 stories, and I've got a ton of things to get to in the next hour. And it all works better when you're a part of the show. 314-436-7900. We'll be back after this. Stick around on the Voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
You know, as I listen to that again, I'm filled with, I don't know what it is. Optimism? Hope, maybe? Hope that he's not just another table-thumping AM radio talk show host yammering on and on about liberals this and socialism that. As I gave him a second chance, it really seemed that he might be that most scarce of creatures, a moderate AM talk show host. Go back and listen again and see if you think my blind optimism's misplaced. Maybe we're all wrong and we need to go back to that frequency again and see if he really is that rare. Well, join me next week when Shortwave brings us a doctor with an unbelievably offensive comparison. Till next time we touch that dial, I'm Spike Nesmith.